Yes, we're back again. A bit of fun and frivolity in the studio. What a great interview that was with Andrew White from Defibs for Life. What a marvellous organisation. And as we said, if we can save just one life, it'll be absolutely a very worthwhile cause. Well, we've got some massive games on this afternoon, and we've been waiting for this one all season. It is an absolute blockbuster. It wouldn't matter what footy league you followed, this is it. It's out at the Kevin O'Leary Oval. The East Geelong Eagles, undefeated on top of the tree, taking on the Bell Post Hill Panthers, undefeated on top of the tree. This is going to be an absolute beauty, and you will be able to hear it, of course, on 94.7 The Pulse, your home of country football, from 1:30 this afternoon. I'll start with you, Eric. We've been waiting all season for this one.
Yeah, any competition that's got two teams, 3 games clear of the rest, Dick, it's got to be an outstanding game. And Jace, I reckon, as Dick said, we've been waiting weeks and weeks and weeks for this. They are miles ahead of the other teams, and with the quality of players on both sides, should be a crackerjack game.
And I think they've been waiting for it to play each other as well, I'd say, because they've been going okay, and they've probably been going through the motions the last 2 or 3 weeks and just getting the wins. I think people have been building up to round 11. This is it, the Eagles and the Panthers, to see where they're at and see who might get bragging rights and premiership favouritism running into the second half of the season. So it's going to be a great game.
Probably both sides suffered a little bit through injuries, suspension, Chamberlain not playing, I don't think, for East Geelong. It took a week, and also O'Hara under a bit of a cloud, but Lewis and Grigic were under a cloud, but they played last week, so I reckon that they'll be right again today.
Yeah, and I think that's the only thing that will differentiate, I suppose. They obviously may not have their best sides in as the finals. Look, let's not beat around the bush. They're probably going to play in the grand final if they keep their form going. There's I can't see Werribee or Inverleigh or an Anarchy or something, going up against these two sides if they've got their best or close to their best team in. I think this afternoon they're not far away from it. It's going to be, it's going to be a classic game of. Little contests amongst, the forwards and the backs and the midfield contest. It'll be, and depending on the weather as well, I suppose, this afternoon as well, about who can actually, hold the footy in and draw, win the contest.
And potentially speaking, we could have a massive shootout. We've got 2 guys playing at either end of the ground, Eric, that could possibly kick a ton this year. Lucas Murphy from East Geelong, and of course, can I say it again, the Eric Nichols-inspired Matt Jovanovic, or Jovanovic if you went to a Bell Park ticket, of course. What do you reckon about that, Eric? We're going to see a lot of goals kicked.
Throw Briggy into those 3, and the 3 of them could kick 100 goals for the season. And just absolutely fascinating to have 3 full forwards of that quality in this particular league. And it'll be worth going to see both of them today.
Oh, just fantastic, those 2 guys. And even throw into the equation Brett Connors as well. He can kick a goal as well. So they've got some big goal kickers out there with those clubs. And, well, the weather looks like it's going to be fairly good this afternoon. And I reckon we could have a very high scoring, even though it'll be reasonably close game.
It's hard to tell. It depends how each team goes about it. And as Jason said a minute ago, there's probably not a lot hanging onto the game other than bragging rights, because they're certainly both going to play in finals.
Well, you can see that game, of course. Well, you'll see the highlights next week, but you can listen to it, of course, on 94.7 The Pulse, your home of country football. And that will be on, of course, this afternoon from 1:30 this afternoon. Other big games on this afternoon, and someone's mobile is ringing away in the studio here. We've got to tell you, you must turn your mobile off on a Saturday morning, but that's okay. North Geelong Footy Club, they go out to the Church Street Oval and they take on the side that hasn't won a game yet. And I'll start with you, Jason. I wouldn't think that the Magpies at the moment are on a little bit of a roll. They've won 1 in a row. And, poor old Geelong West, they just can't crack it.
Oh, there it is. Poor old Geelong West.
It used to be poor old Belmont Lions, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's poor old Geelong West. Yeah, I think the Magpies will make it 2 in a row. And I think the heat will be off Frank after last week.
He's never been on, Frank.
Oh, well, we heard off air. We heard off air. There was people on his back at quarter time. No, let's get into it. No, let's have a crack. And the heat's off him now. He'll play the West. He'll play. Yeah, the Cheese. I'll tell you what. He'd be a coach in waiting for a few other teams if he got the lemon and sauce.
He's not going to get the lemon and sauce. Everything's all right at North.
They'll beat the Cheetahs, I think.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Eric?
I think the story of this afternoon might be how many Briggy kicks.
Yeah, true. Yeah, to see how he goes on that magnificent.
Well, they wouldn't want to lose, would they?
They wouldn't want to lose, no, exactly.
Because they've improved, haven't they, the Cheetahs? They've been looking a bit better in the last few weeks.
Yeah, no, they're going all right. They actually kicked a few goals last week. They're thereabouts. I thought a couple of weeks ago they might have had a chance.
Can't be that close. Poor old Geelong West.
Yeah, I'll go after poor old Geelong West, but the Cheetahs, they'll be up there very, very shortly. Another big game on this afternoon. It's out at Footrot Flats. It's the Anarchy Roos taking on Bannockburn. And Eric, what do you think about this one?
Well, I think this is a game that could have a huge bearing on who's going to finish in the top 5, Dick. And Bannockburn, gee whiz, they've been inconsistent. Anarchy at least have been reasonably consistent, but the fact that it's out at Anarchy this afternoon could give Anarchy the big chance to win it.
Jace.
Bannockburn remind me of Melbourne. One week they're sensational, next week they're horrific. Tough gig at Anarchy. I think Anarchy play a lot better at home, and I think the Roos might get over the line over the Tigers.
Met at the Railway Street Ground out at Inverleigh, the home of the Happy Hawks, taking on the producers, Belmont Lions. Now, the Belmont Lions...
Producers?
Have we promoted him yet or not? As your floor manager. Executive floor manager.
I was going to say producer. Gee whiz, we're building him up a bit.
Well, we'll build him up, don't you worry about it. Does a great job here in the studio, does Brian Coleman. But it's out at Inverleigh. Belmont Lions did play pretty well after quarter time last week, Eric, but you'd think that Inverleigh at home would be too good.
Well, I think Inverleigh certainly should win the game. They were decimated a bit with injuries last week. Full forward went off early, and they really didn't get their rotations together and struggled all day. Belmont Lions kicked 17 goals after quarter time against the top side. Not a bad effort, but I think at home Inverleigh.
Jace.
Yes, the Hawks.
The Happy Hawks out there at Inverleigh.
Do you want me to say something else, or is that enough?
No, that's right. It's very, very good. Don't elaborate too much.
No, fair enough.
Out at the Godfrey Street Thunderdome, it's the Tommy Tigers, and they take on Winchelsea. And we just talked before, our Thompson might be just a little bit of a late dark horse coming in. Winchelsea, though, not playing a great footy at the moment. Jace, you'd think the Tommy Tigers at home?
I think so, yes. They're in seventh, they're 5-5, and we look at their run and it's not too bad on the way home. You just never know about the Tommy Tigers. They missed the finals last year for the first time in 16 years. They might be back in them this year. But they've got a couple of crucial games coming up and they have to beat sides like Winchelsea.
Eric.
Yeah, I agree totally. They must win today to have any show at all of playing finals.
Out at the Devils Playground, Coria, who were very stiff last Saturday. They actually were probably robbed by North Geelong in a lot of ways to be in front. Don't laugh, Jason. They were in front all day, the Devils, and they just could not hang on to those dying seconds. And they, you would think, would be out there to get some sort of revenge in some respects to at least get a win on the board. But they do take on a side that's probably one of the other threats for the finals this year, Eric, and Werribee Centrals. Yes,
they played very, very well last week, deserved to win, and I think they're going to win again today. Although Corio at home, always a tough proposal.
Jace.
Corio would be filthy. They lost to North Geelong. They hate losing the Battle of the Northern Suburbs, but I think Werribee.
OK, well, that wraps up all the games this afternoon. As we said, of course, the blockbuster is on this afternoon. You can hear it on 94.7, The Pulse, your home of country football, from 1:30. And it is the Belpost Hill Panthers taking on with the East Geelong Eagles out at the Eastern Suburbs Footy Ground in front of those magnificent new renovations. It'll be a magnificent afternoon. Bit of sadness through the week. Well, last week, North Geelong Football Club lost Brian Mowat, 96 years of age and 30 years as secretary of the club, and just an absolute institution around the club. The heart and soul of the North Geelong Footy Club, and of course the room's named after him, and we extend to Joy and her family our deepest sympathy indeed. Eric, thanks for coming in, mate. Good to get you off the bench.
Thanks very much, Dick. Nice to be here.
I hope the Suki Lala gets over his toothache, but we'll talk to him a little bit later on. And Jace, you're calling this afternoon?
I am, actually.
Oh, great.
Amazingly so.
That's great, mate. Well, you have a great call this afternoon. I know you guys are going to have a magnificent afternoon with such a great game of footy. We'll see you all again back here same time next week.
From all around Geelong, I'm here to tell you how football is strong.